There is now an easy way to upgrade from Squarespace 7.0 version to Squarespace 7.1 in just one click using the official 7.1 update tool. This button seems simple and straightforward, but there are actually quite a lot of critical considerations before you make the move. So in this video, I will not only show you how exactly this new update tool works, I will also share how to plan, prepare, and to facilitate this upgrade. Prior to the launch of this update button, it's been a pain to move from 7.0 to the 7.1 version of Squarespace. You might have been told that you had to start fresh with a brand new site to enjoy all the new cool features of Squarespace 7.1. But this old method of starting a new site requires moving over the domain and website subscription. That means you're billing in Squarespace. This also means that you'll lose all back-end data, including order history, customer profiles, email campaigns, analytics history, memberships, and subscriptions. This will also require the use of third-party tool to import blog posts and other content. Using this method also poses a higher risk of negatively affecting SEO rankings. However, with the launch of this new update tool, there's no longer need to move domains or subscribe to a new Squarespace plan. More so, all critical site data will be kept intact, including order history, customer profiles, memberships, analytics, email campaigns, and subscriptions. We also don't need to import or export blog posts and other content. Because all content are kept intact, there is also no limit in terms of the pages that can be upgraded. I already upgraded a site which has more than 100 pages and has more than 1,000 blog posts, and the update went smoothly. More so, there's less risk of affecting SEO. Now you might be wondering why there is still a little risk in terms of SEO, and I'll share with you why in a bit. To give you a preview, I'll show you how easy it is to access the tool, but as I mentioned, please don't proceed with any update without finishing the rest of the video because there are critical considerations before proceeding. So in any compatible Squarespace 7.0 site, I'll share more about compatibility later. Under website, go to design, and you'll find that there is now this option to update to version 7.1. We may click this button. There will be this prompt letting us know that we can preview our site on 7.1 before publishing. We don't have to worry about our live site because while we are in preview and we don't publish any of the changes, our 7.0 site will be kept intact and we can cancel anytime before publishing. So we can get started right here. And again, there are some reminders that our site might look different, especially if you have code customizations and special functions. And we should be very careful in publishing this change because this will be a permanent change as soon as we publish the 7.1 version. But this button right here says preview, so that means we won't affect our 7.0 live site just yet. So if I preview my site right here, it will say setting up site preview. It might take a few minutes. This one took less than a minute, and there's this bright banner letting us know that we can cancel or publish any changes. This preview will also show up on the back end of any contributors of the site. So if you're a designer working for a client, note that the client won't be able to make any changes to the live site while the 7.1 preview is being shown. Notice how most content are preserved, but there are stylistic aspects which are not carried over. That's because most code customizations aren't carried over when we switch to 7.1. Now, if I open an incognito window wherein I am not logged in, notice how the 7.0 version of the site is still live. So even if we make changes to the 7.1 preview, this 7.0 version will be preserved. There are editing restrictions while we are previewing the 7.1 version 2. We cannot add new pages. We are also not able to edit any blog post. I'll share more tips on how to edit this 7.1 preview in the latter part of this video. But for now, I'd like to share that once you're happy with how the 7.1 preview looks like, you may hit publish. But once you do, that change is irreversible, so be very careful. You may also click cancel, but this means that any changes that you made during the preview will be discarded. Before I share critical considerations and limitations in using the tool, you might be wondering, why would you even consider upgrading to 7.1 if your current site is on 7.0? Well, 7.1 is more powerful and flexible. If we upgrade to 7.1, you can access 7.1 exclusive features such as Fluid Engine, auto layout sections, courses, and other advanced commerce features. If you are interested about hosting your courses on Squarespace, I do have a separate video for that, which I'll link in the description box. 7.1 version also meets modern web design standards and is constantly updated to do so, such that we meet web design standard in terms of accessibility, SEO, and performance. So if you're using a 7.0 version and you try to run the site in an accessibility tool, you might notice that there are quite a lot of flags in terms of accessibility. Most of those flags are addressed in the 7.1 version. Based on recent tests, 7.1 sites are also much faster than 7.0 sites, and that's because the team behind Squarespace is continuously looking for ways to optimize site loading, including lazy loading of images. Thirdly, 7.1 version is future-proof. Now, I won't guarantee that there will be no major changes on Squarespace in the next few years, but then the plan of Squarespace is to build new features around this 7.1 interface. For example, even though the introduction of Fluid Editor is such a major upgrade, they did not launch Squarespace 8.0 or Squarespace 7.2. That's because they made sure that these new features are compatible with Squarespace 7.1. And we are expecting that more and more features will be exclusive to 7.1. However, I'd like to note that if you are on Squarespace 7.0, it will be supported continuously. It will not be sunsetted. Now, there might also be reasons why you might opt not to upgrade to 7.1. And here are some. First, 7.1 is a completely different interface. So if you are so used to the interface and the options inside Squarespace 7.0, it might take time and energy before you get used to the new options inside the 7.1 version. Now, if you'd like to accelerate that learning, I actually have an offer that might suit you. I teach Standout Squarespace Foundations, where I share how you can master the new 7.1 version of Squarespace. Second reason why upgrading is not for you at the moment is this update tool has compatibility limitations. 7.0 has different template families. And if the template is not part of Brine and Bedford families, then the update tool will not work. Now, if you wish to learn which template your 7.0 site is using, just go to website and click pages, scroll down to the very bottom, and you'll find that there is this version 7.0 Brine family. If you're not seeing this update to version 7.1 under design, then it could be that your site is on a different 7.0 family other than Brine and Bedford. If that's the case for you and you still wish to use the update tool, there is actually an option. And that is to switch to Brine or Bedford family first before using the update tool. So in this example, if I go to website, design, notice that I don't have any option to update to version 7.1. And that's because this website is actually under the Wells family. So if I'd like to still use the update tool, we can switch templates by going to Design, Template, and right here, I can install a new template. Most of these are actually under the Brian family, but just to be sure, I go to All Templates and use this clay option, or you can search for Brian and it will lead you to this Brian. Again, there are multiple templates under the Brian family. And then what we can do is, for example, start with Brian. It will allow us to preview this Brian template without affecting our current Wells-based 7.0 site. I actually have a separate video all about staging a different template on a 7.0 version of Squarespace, so I'll just link that in the description box below. Another limitation is that the update tool won't work when the developer mode is toggled on. So if you'd like to proceed with the update, we need to toggle off the developer mode, but you need to proceed with caution when doing that. Third consideration is that this upgrade to 7.1 might require a full redesign. Personally, when I offer this upgrade service to my clients, I manage their expectations that this is a redesign project. This is because while content and data are preserved, some design and layouts may break. This is because the design options in Squarespace 7.0 are not 100% mapped to Squarespace 7.1. The Squarespace team try their best to map all those options, but then we can still not achieve 100% design fidelity. More so, most code customizations won't be carried over. Hence, if the project has code customizations, I recommend treating the project as a full redesign and engage Squarespace experts to do this upgrade for you. Another main consideration is that the editing of the current site will be restricted while 7.1 is in preview mode. And this will be the case across all contributors. So if you don't want other contributors to mess up the preview mode or accidentally publish the 7.1 site without being approved, then please check the permissions tab of your Squarespace site and make sure that you contact all contributors and let them know not to make any changes while 7.1 is in preview mode. Hence, if there are important content updates coming up for the site, you might want to delay the upgrade to 7.1. Another main consideration before moving to 7.1 is knowing that some 7.0 features are not supported. Here are some that I'd like to highlight, but if you'd like to access the full list of these features, I'll link that reference in the description box below. When we preview the 7.1 version, you'll find that the header will look completely different because in 7.1, we no longer have secondary navigation. We also don't have header search bars. Another feature lacking in Squarespace 7.1 are gallery pages. For example, I have a site right here where I used a gallery page in 7.0 and pull that to a summary block. So notice I have multiple videos right here, and this gallery pages actually do not support uploaded videos. They are linked to either YouTube, Vimeo, or other video hosts. However, when I previewed the same section in the 7.1 version, notice how this was automatically converted to a gallery block. And right here, notice how the rest of the other videos are no longer linked. So if you are using gallery pages a lot in 7.0, make sure you take into account this content. It's best to back up those links to the videos. Gallery blocks are also just partially supported because they transfer over to 7.1, but then because gallery blocks are only fully supported in collection items and not regular pages in 7.1, then you can view and access the gallery block, but you cannot add new gallery blocks on regular pages if you're not a Circle member. Cover pages and album pages are also totally not supported at the moment. So if you have these pages, make sure to just back up the text as well as the audio files. If you have anchor links, you might have added that using code. That code will not work. And then share buttons are also no longer supported in 7.1, as well as template switching or staging. Earlier, I demonstrated how you can stage a different template on Squarespace 7.0. That function is no longer supported in 7.1. If you decide that upgrading to 7.1 version is the best next move for your site and business, then here's how you can plan, prepare, and proceed with caution. First, please be reminded again that once the preview is published, the upgrade to the 7.1 version is irreversible. Second reminder, canceling the 7.1 preview discards all changes. Later, I do have a pro tip on how you can recover some of those changes, but this is a good blanket reminder for us. So it's best to allot ample time in adjusting the 7.1 site and prepare the site prior to making tons of changes while on 7.1 preview. Before proceeding, if you have a massive site with tons of code customizations, or if you have a lot of pages, and if you're not yet familiar with 7.1, I recommend consulting a Squarespace expert. If you need referrals, I have a list of skilled Squarespace experts who took my Standout Squarespace program and are under my mentorship. I'm happy to share that list with you. Simply comment below. I also recommend duplicating your current website prior to proceeding with the upgrade. And this duplicated site is just a backup visual reference. Note that there are quite a lot of limitations when we try to duplicate the entire site. For example, websites with more than 100 pages cannot be duplicated. All backend data are also not duplicated. Hence, this duplicated site is just a reference. The one that we will upgrade is the current 7.0 site and not the duplicate. I was part of the beta testing of this tool, and while it's a small percentage of beta testers who reported these errors, there were indeed some instances wherein there are errors such as site preview failed or unable to retrieve sections. To my knowledge, the cause of these errors were not communicated, but I recommend making sure that you have a strong network connection as well as sufficient device memory before clicking that upgrade to version 7.1 button. It's also best to close other apps and browsers while doing this upgrade. Earlier, I noted that while we are on preview mode, we are no longer able to add new pages or duplicate existing pages. Hence, before we activate the preview, if you are wanting to add new pages to the site or duplicate existing ones, please do that prior to clicking the upgrade button. Another preparation step is to check the code injection areas of the site as well as of each pages. This is because while all CSS customizations under the Custom CSS panel are commented out, they are not affecting our 7.1 preview. If you add any CSS or JavaScript to the advanced code injection area of the page or to the site-wide header or footer code injection, these code injections will affect the 7.1 preview, and our main limitations is we cannot remove those codes. So in this example, because I added a CSS that hides the header, notice how the header of the site is hidden even on the 7.1 version. So my advice is if you don't want the current site to be affected, then it might be best to duplicate that page, and in that duplicated page, you may remove that code injection. Still part of the preparation is to create a list of SEO relevant URLs. To identify the pages or URLs that matter most in terms of your SEO, I recommend searching for this keyword site : followed by your domain then this search will show results of pages which are indexed on your site. To preserve your SEO rankings, it's best to make sure that these URLs are preserved. I also have to mention that product items have different URL structure once we switch to 7.1, but we don't have to worry about it because Squarespace automatically handles the redirect of the previous structure to this new structure. I've been using this tool for quite a while now since I was part of the beta group. I've migrated several sites, including my own, squarestylist.com, from 7.0 to 7.1. Hence, I'd like to share these reminders and best practices while on 7.1 preview that I'm sure you'll find helpful. First, please be reminded that the content of our collection items, like blog posts or event items, cannot be edited. So in Squarespace 7.1, we should be able to add any section to the top or to the bottom of our blog list. But notice how this edit option is not available whenever we're in the blog collection. The same is true when we try to visit the blog post item. Notice that this edit option is disabled. Second reminder is that pages may seem to have subpages, and these subpages may seem to have no content. To give more context, in Squarespace 7.0, we typically add index pages, which consists of different pages inside of it, and we're able to move these pages around. However, when we switch to Squarespace 7.1, these pages will become sections within just one page. When we switch to 7.1, the expected behavior is for all of those pages to be converted to sections and to appear on just one page. And this is exactly what shows up when I previewed the 7.1 for the site. So notice if I click this topmost page and if I click edit, notice how the sections show up as expected. However, you might worry that if you click on these individual sections or subpages, it seems like the content is empty. Don't worry, this is just a temporary state. Once we publish the 7.1 version, these subpages will be removed or we can delete them without affecting the main page. This brings me to the next reminder, which is you can actually change the content and the layout of the regular pages without affecting the live site. Based on our beta test, we only had problems changing or deleting forms. But if we change an image on the regular page, that image change won't reflect on the live site. So while in preview, if I try to change the text or the image here, like so, and even if I change the color theme, even if I save my changes here, if I view the live site, this live 7.0 site is untouched. Squarespace mentioned that anything that will affect the live site should be disabled while in 7.1 preview. However, based on my testing, there are instances wherein if I delete forms or if I delete subscription blocks, the 7.0 site is affected. Hence, if you'd like to be extra careful, I recommend duplicating the section first before deleting any block or even before you make any major change. So for example, because I wasn't able to duplicate this, if I change my mind, I actually would like to use that image, I'd have to rebuild that again. So it's best practice, especially if you're new to this, to use this duplicate feature and make changes to that duplicate. This brings me to my favorite pro tip, which is to leverage the saved sections feature in 7.1. Instead of duplicating, you might just want to save this version of this section. After doing so, we'll be able to access our saved sections by going to the saved sections menu and accessing that particular section. So even if I make changes to this section, notice when I change the color theme that the custom colors were removed. So if I remove those custom colors and also if I just deleted that entire gallery and just saved this section, there is a way for us to recover this section by simply accessing our saved section. So if you click this option to add a section, under saved section, there will be all our saved sections. And notice how we can easily recover this initial section. So I recommend before making any major changes to the layout or content of your sections, please duplicate them or add them to your saved sections. Just be extra careful when you have forms or subscription blocks, because once you delete them, it might be hard to recover them even through saved sections. And the other reason why I love using the saved sections feature is because it allows us to recover sections, content, and layout even after we cancel the 7.1 preview. So for example, if I'm already happy with this banner layout and the client says, actually, we need to have an emergency edit to the site, but we're not yet ready to publish the 7.1 site, we don't have a choice but to cancel this preview. So if I cancel this preview, it will tell us that all our changes will be discarded. But if we'd like to preserve this section content and layout, what we can actually do is add it to our saved sections. Notice how it was automatically added. And even if I cancel this, we'll note that once we initiate the 7.1 preview again, it seems like we're starting from scratch. Notice how all the changes that we've made when we previewed the site on 7.1 the first time were all discarded. However, not all is lost, because there's something that we can recover. We can actually still access all the saved sections that we added in our initial 7.1 preview. So notice, if I add a section, go to the saved sections, these sections that we managed to save are still recoverable. Another tip which may be applicable if you are overhauling the entire design of the site is to reset the color themes. Again, be careful in doing this, and if you're not overhauling the colors and the design of the entire site, this is not applicable to you. I personally do this because I am more comfortable just managing the colors of these 5 colors in the main palette. So what I do when I do a full redesign is to go to the color theme, scroll down till the end, and I just reset it to the default theme. Again, be careful because it's hard to recover these colors unless we restart the upgrade. Another reminder is to practice caution when upgrading to Fluid. Initially, our sections will be using the classic editor, the editor that uses spacer blocks and have these insert points. However, we have the option to upgrade it to the Fluid editor. But as I mentioned, we need to practice caution. You may either duplicate this or save it as a saved section before you convert to Fluid, because once we convert to Fluid, we cannot revert back. I've mentioned this before, but I'd like to emphasize that any codes in the injection areas are not accessible while on preview mode. Also, feel free to remove the CSS that you added in the custom CSS panel. If you'd like to start fresh, you may actually just remove all the custom CSS here, or back it up in any of your text editor or in Notion. And even if we delete this and save, we'll find that our live 7.0 site will not be affected. You may also make changes to the navigation, and rest assured that these navigation changes will not affect the 7.0 live site. And lastly, something that I cannot stress enough is to remind your collaborators not to make unnecessary edits while the site is on preview mode. And once you're happy with how your 7.1 site is looking like, you may hit the publish button, but please note that this change is irreversible, so please be cautious. And once your site is on 7.1, you may now add 7.1 exclusive features such as courses and video collections. If you find this video helpful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Please also share with other designers who might find this helpful. On Instagram, you may follow me at SquareStylist. Note that I am not able to provide personalized support via the comments below, but if you wish to have more personalized technical support, I provide that via my Squarespace program, Standout Squarespace.